This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. Enjoy a survey of inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. It's all right here. Leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative dreams.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and most of you already know that's because I make it that way. When I got up this morning, I already decided it was going to be a groovy day. My feet hit the floor, and I got ready for the show, and now if anything else happens, all I have to do is think about when I got up, and it's all groovy again. So that's the way that works, and it's groovy because today is Life Mastery Radio Day. Yay! Life Mastery Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. And we have a very cool show set up for you today, so stick around. I was just trying to share on Facebook, and Jackie's face popped up.
That must have been horrific.
No, but so we have these. Facebook is ever evolving.
Oh,
we have these new
yeah,
buttons.
because when I went to share the video, it's actually a video of me. I'm like, wait, that's not what I wanted.
Oh, it was too funny. I was like, oh, so
Wait,
that's what that button does. It was pretty fun. Let's see, is it up yet? I'll quickly do this.
I didn't.
Oh, you canceled it.
Well, I canceled the video of me. I don't want it of me.
Oh, look, there's the show. I know. But I see we're up there now, and that's very cool. So as always, before we get started, I always like to get myself centered and situated and connected. So let's just think about it for a minute and think about what it is that gives you power. Where do you tap into? What is it that you think about, or where is it that you get your power from? We're going to talk a lot about that today. So it could be God, it could be Allah, it could be the dude, it could be the tree, it could be nature, whatever it is. Think about what that is and connect to it, and take in a deep breath, and then just let out a big ah, and just let that essence flow up through your heart center, throat chakra, and right out of your speaker box. Let's do that one more time. In with a deep breath. And this time, think about your dreams, visions, and goals. What is it that you want to come? What is it that you need help with from your power source? How's that? In with the deep breath, and out with a big ah. Just let that flow up through your heart center, out of the speaker box and out into the universe. And for sure now, I want you to think about providing the universe, God, Allah, whatever it is that you believe in, the opportunity to make those dreams and goals come true for you. And they will. And we're going to talk about that and how you do that and how you connect to that on today's show. But first, we need an update from Jackie. Check her out. She got her hair cut.
I got a few of them cut. Yeah.
Hi, my friend. How are things at the Speak Feed Lead Project? Growing leaps and bounds, from what I understand?
They are growing. You know, I told everyone last week about this class we were doing at this elementary school. And that happened last Thursday after last week's show. And as you are fully aware, technology can often be a booger. And it happened on Thursday. I'm supposed to be the instructor of 124 fourth grade children, and I cannot get on the meeting. The school district was using Microsoft Teams, which I'm not very familiar with. I've been on a few Microsoft Team meetings, but I've never been leading one. And the link that I was provided was not working for me. And of course, the frustration, because we were trying to get on 10 minutes before the class, before the kids were going to start coming into the class, so that we could get familiar with the software a little bit. That didn't happen. And then the time for the class to start, I'm still trying to get in. And then 10, 15 minutes later, after the class has already started, I finally somehow miraculously got in, finding that other teachers had the same issue. So we're hoping for a better outcome because it's our second session this Thursday. So we're hoping that things are going to be lined up a little bit better.
You know what? That's really weird because I had the same dream. I mean, the experience. I mean, I was there too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just felt bad. And the kids were sitting there waiting. And I felt so bad for them because they had to wait for all these adults.
Of course.
To figure out the technology.
That didn't know what they were doing, right?
Exactly. And it was very obvious that we didn't know what we were doing. But the reports I hear have been fabulous. One of the kids said, once we got into our groups, it was really fun. So even though we didn't get to spend an hour with them like we'd hoped, it ended up being more like maybe 20, 25 minutes. They still had fun. And we look forward to having more fun with them.
And it was some really good content, real simple, just the 5 rules of effective speaking. And, I think the most moving part of what we taught them was to look at the camera when you're talking so that people feel like you're looking at them. I thought that. And they were all like, wow, what a concept. That's pretty cool. Because we played that exercise where it says, what am I looking at? I'm talking to you, but what am I looking at? And they're all like, well, you're looking down. You're looking somewhere else. I'm saying, okay, now what? Am I looking at you? And do you feel more connected? And they're like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And they all go, you're looking at me. No, you're looking at me. That's right. I'm looking at all of you at the same time. It's magic.
Well, I'm glad things are growing. I had fun. We got more things coming up with the nonprofit speakfeedlead.org project. You can join in, you can donate, you can help us, you can give us some tips, tricks, and whatever else you think. Connect with us, and we would appreciate it. Go to speakfeedlead.org and check it out. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. We've got summer classes starting soon, and the enrollment pages will be up shortly. So look for that, and we'd love to have your child in one of our summer workshops.
You cannot... The return on your investment will last for the rest of their life if you get kids involved. So it's off the charts. You just got to check it out. I try and talk about it, but I cannot give it justice.
Well, and in fact, I finished a class. This is Unit 2. We have 12 units. Last night, I was finishing an 8-week Unit 2 course with some students and getting their feedback about it, and that they were so amazed to know that the simple tools that they've been taught is not just for the class, but it's for them to take forward in everything they do from here on out.
Totally.
That they've been taught these skills now and they feel more empowered, and it's only going to be more and more so as they continue using the tools they've been provided. So it's really cool.
It's a
help
great
them have that aha moment.
Here, let me see if I can do it justice. It's a great way to empower a future leader.
That's right. And we definitely need some leaders. I mean, I think we've got a leadership crisis going on right now. So we definitely need some leaders.
We're not going to go with that. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com, whichever one you prefer. And any links that we talk about are located right there. And a link to our guest, her website, her book, it's all right there. And while you're there, you could sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter goes out once a week. It talks about who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and a blog post about who was on the show and what we talked about. Where else can you get so much information about Life Mastery Radio all in one place? The newsletter, and you can sign up for it. right at lifemasteryradio.net or .com. Everything is right there. Even a link to my book, 6 Keys to Life Mastery. You can follow the link, get the book, love the book, read the book. It's real short. See, it's not that bad. And then you can leave me some feedback. Jackie has a book too.
Yep, I do. Let me pull up my book. Here I am.
Jackie's book is on Amazon too. We got to get a link on the website for Jackie's book. We just got to do it. I keep saying that. Okay. I think that, tell a friend. You're going to have such a blast today with Jackie and I and our guest, Hila, that I want you to think about this. Tell a friend how cool this show is. That's what you got to do. Just to say, hey, man, I watched this really cool show. Okay, Jackie, I think it's time.
It is time.
I'm going
to bring on our guest. Yes, and I'm delighted to do that. Hila J. Esters is a minister, teacher, author, speaker, podcast host. She's a visionary thought leader, and she's a mentor and a coach. Gosh, she's got lots of titles because she's awesome. She is also, if that's not enough, she's also the owner of Freedom Network Now and Reflections of Real Life Ministries. Hila has ministered in prisons in San Diego, California, and in Dallas, Texas. She's authored several books: Daddy's Little Girl, Your Daddy's So Big, and The Miraculous Realm of Heaven on Earth. In fact, she now has a program that she's developed from that book, and it's called the 5-Step Miraculous Realm System, which is a program we can all be involved in. And her passion is to help people who are stuck in unfulfilled lives break out of these repeating cycles that we find ourselves in, and it's holding us hostage. And so Hila wants to help you and I and Todd and everybody listening to overcome obstacles and to reach our goals. So welcome to the Life Mastery Radio stage, Hila Esters. Yay. Nice to see you, Hila.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
How are you today, my friend?
Oh, I'm great. And I'm looking forward to this show, the discussion. I think you're very cool, Todd. Love your voice.
Don't tell anybody.
He definitely has a radio voice, doesn't he?
You have this brand new book, The Miraculous Realm of Heaven on Earth, Living Life on the Other Side of Resurrection. So it's just an amazing story, Hila. You have such great stories, but let's go all the way back when you first heard that voice. Tell us that story, because it is quite moving.
Yes, when I was 3 years old, my family, we attended the Methodist church. And my opinion is it was very boring. At 3 years old, I'd rather be outside playing. So when I was 3, you sit in church, you don't run all over the place. And I had this habit of being bored. I'd kick the bench. And so I didn't know I was kicking the bench. It would just kind of happen. So my mother would reach over and pinch me, stop kicking that bench, and I didn't want to get pinched. So I decided to pay attention. So it took all my effort to pay attention, and that caused me to focus. So I focused on what the man up front was saying, the preacher, and he was talking about God. Well, in the Methodist church we attended, they had stained glass windows. So I could find Jesus, I could find the disciples, I could find the lambs and Mary holding the baby, but I couldn't find God. And so I was saying, to me, that was a problem. He's talking about God and I can't find God. So at home, my brothers, my 2 brothers and my sister were at school. There was no preschool back then. They were at school and I was home by myself with my mom. I'm supposed to be watching cartoons. She's busy. And you just didn't run up to my mom and interrupt and start talking. So it took me about, 10, 15 minutes to make up my mind to go in there and ask her, uninvited, go in there and ask her a question. But my desire to know where God was just overpowered me. I thought about it for a couple of days, and knowing me, I had to know. So I got up, I walked in the, the dining room where she was folding clothes. And I said, Mama, can I ask you a question? And she said, yes. I said, well, the man at church keeps talking about God. I said, I can't find him in the windows. Where is God? And she said, bless her heart, she said, God is in heaven. He's invisible, and you can talk to him anytime you want. So I said, great. Can I go outside? And usually the answer would be no, because I was by myself. My two brothers and sisters weren't there. But she said yes. And so I went outside because I figured, well, he can't be in here. He's got to be too big. Heaven can't be in the house. So I went outside and I found somewhere to sit in the yard. And my first thought was, well, what do you say to God? I looked up and I go, well, people in church say hello. So I looked up and I said, hello, God, how are you? And this voice surrounded me. It was an audible voice. I thought someone walked up behind me and it said, the flowers are beautiful today, aren't they? I jumped, I turned around, I looked, nobody was there. I ducked my head down. I said, oh, God's talking to me. And then I thought, nobody's going to believe me. My mother's going to think I'm lying and I'll get a spanking. So I decided to keep it to myself. It was my secret that I could talk to God and he would talk back to me. Well, the thing is if you look at it, I made a decision. I determined that my not knowing where God was a problem. Yeah. And it was a decision that I made that I had to find out. I had to solve it. And that's what I did at 3 years old. And so my life, because of that, was set on a path. And I followed that path, till now, all of my life, talking to God. It's not always an audible voice, but now eventually I learned about the Holy Spirit. And I follow the Holy Spirit, whatever I hear in my spirit to do. And of course, things haven't always been perfect because growing up, there's times when you get impatient, you go your own way, you make your own decisions. But whatever I've gotten into, God has gotten me out.
It's interesting because I can remember being 6 or 7 and going to Sunday school or going to church with my parents and sitting in those pews, being bored. But I can remember these thoughts that it didn't make sense to me. I was having a hard time comprehending it. And basically, my questions were, they're shooting rockets now up into heaven. And they're drilling for oil down where hell is supposed to be. How can this be for sure? This can't be real. This is like, it didn't make sense to me. I remember having those thoughts on more than one occasion because the things they were talking about didn't make sense to me and my world of the way I understood it.
So what did you do about it? You didn't have someone like Hila to ask questions to.
And I kept asking those questions. I'm not for sure what I did, Jackie. I just remember being that bored and pondering on those questions and why it didn't all make sense to me.
But this is why Hila's story is so amazing, is that she did take that action.
Totally.
Right? She asked the question, which is exactly what I teach my students. The only way we learn is to ask questions. So Hila asked this question, and then she received this amazing answer because of this faith that you had. And you actually remember that experience, Hila, even though you were 3 years old, you still remember it.
Yes.
And since that day, you've been talking to the Spirit. That's pretty cool.
Yes, because
it
is
go ahead.
My mother, people deal with rejection all the time, and if you break it down, I had to overcome the thought, go back in there and watch, go sit down. I had to overcome that to get my answer, even though it was someone that loved me. But I considered her a source that I trusted. And so when your desire becomes stronger than your fear of rejection and you're going to a trusted source. Now, mine was my mother. Now it's God, it's the Holy Spirit.
I think they call that tenacity.
Yeah. You have to go forward. And that's the thing. You can, like I tell people, nothing against Andy Griffith, but it's like you can sit home and watch reruns of Andy Griffith and make your schedule. Oh, he comes on at 2:00. I got to be home. Everything I got to, go to the store and get back. And you can stay in that same place every day and watch your shows, watch your soaps as they used to come on,
Mhm.
and or you can go forward. You can learn something new. You can try something new. It's what do you desire to do? What's in your heart? You have to know. You have to get to the point where I have to know this. I have to figure this out. I got to find the answer. And it moves your life forward.
So
So
did you
let's
always
move.
feel like you were different than the other kids though, who didn't have the same relationship with
Always.
God?
I've always been on the outside of everything. I've always been the weirdo. I've always I've always known things about people ahead of time, things that would
Oh yeah.
happen. Um, and I would when I was young, I would just sit back and see if I was right, see if I heard right.
Mm.
And because you have to, now that I know, you have to practice. I used to watch football, baseball, basketball with my father on Sunday, and I noticed how I could tell if if in basketball they were going to make the basket or miss
Hmm.
it, the other team would get it and score, and I would know that ahead of time. So then I would watch it happen. Now I always know who's going to win the Super Bowl or like a
Wow.
horse race. I
You're my
would
friend
know,
now.
you know. I know the answers to questions
Yeah.
because God knows
Yeah.
everything. And that's how you have to come at it. And when I was in school taking tests, I would always study, but I've always excelled because I don't like to fail. So I would study. But if I came across a multiple choice that I didn't know, one time in the 7th grade, I said the answers were so similar. I said, okay, so which one is it? God, you know everything. And C lit up on my paper. So I marked
Hmm.
it. And of course it was right.
Wow.
See, the only limitations we have are things that we can't think of, that we don't allow ourselves to think is possible. But if we excel through awareness
Hmm.
and through changing our perspective and our perceptions, and that comes through awareness. And so, God is in heaven. He's invisible. Oh my God, he's invisible. Let me go talk to him. I can talk to him anytime I want, and that just those three basic things, people don't realize even that. But
Hmm.
at 3 years old, that's what my mother told me, and I believed her.
Yeah.
See,
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. You wrote 2 or 3 books before this book, correct?
2 books, and God
And
told me to write both of them.
before this one. And
Mhm.
tell us the story about how this book came into be. I mean, this is first I got to give it a plug. It's an amazing book. It has 5 parts, a 5-part plan, but it can be used as, a study book. It has all of the passages that Hila references if you want to go and look for it yourself, which is I think that's why she did it, to entice you to open up probably the best-selling book in the entire planet. So how did this book come to be?
Well, throughout my life, I've had visions, either within or open visions that are out that you can interact with. Even the scoreboard of football games came through my ceiling one day when the Raiders went to the Super Bowl. I was watching football on TV, and the scoreboard came through the ceiling while I was talking on the phone. And I
Hmm.
hung up the phone. What was the score of the following week's game? And so I knew that the Raiders were going to win that game. They were going to win the AFC Championship and go to the Super Bowl. That was 2003.
Wow.
So this book came about. I woke up one morning and there was a puppet standing there looking at me. I'm still laying down, and he wasn't looking at me. He had his head down. He was dirty. He resembled Pinocchio. And even the feather in his cap was broken. And he was very despondent. He was on strings, and even though I didn't look up, I knew there were dark clouds over his head, and he was being manipulated by the puppet master, which we know is the enemy, Satan. And no matter what he tried to do, it in life, it didn't work, and he couldn't figure it out.
Hmm.
And so I just laid there and I looked at him, and he raised his head and he just looked so sad and despondent about his life. And then his eyes opened up wide all of a sudden. And now I know, because he became aware of something. And that something he became aware of is he didn't have to live that way. So then his eyes narrowed down and like slits. And he looked real determined and upset at the same time. And then he raised these big scissors and over his head and cut the strings all at one time and stood up, just determined. And then he faded away. When he faded away, the words, the miraculous realm of heaven on earth, faded into the room, big, huge words. And I knew that it was a book that I had to write. And so for a whole year, the Holy Spirit taught me this book, because you can't write about something that you have not experienced. And so I went through the experiences of this book, and then it took me 9 months to write it. He told me exactly how he wanted it written. And then the book came out. I finished it a year ago, this month, actually. And it came out this past June. But that's how I got this book.
And so is it just that one time when you saw the puppet, or have you seen the puppet on numerous occasions?
Just that one time.
Just that one time.
Yeah. He
Wow.
used that puppet to show me the how people are, they try to go forward in life, that 1 step forward, 10 steps back.
Right.
No matter how hard they try to change their lives, nothing works. Well, this is why.
Yeah. It's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
Very, very, very powerful. So you wrote the book. The book evolved. How has the reception been, to bring a football term into it? how have people received it?
It's the reception's been really good once they find out what the book is really about. Going back to my childhood, it's like I've always been on the outside. And so because I believe what I do. I believe what God says. And so my normal conversation, people will back up, because it's like, really? I go, yeah, really. To me, it's normal, but to them, it's like something they never heard of. So it's like the master class that I just had that outlined the book and took them through the steps. Of course, there's, the problem, the solution, the transformation, the outcome, and then the benefits of each section. I took them through it, and once they saw it, it was like, well, yeah, this works. It's so simple. You can take it and apply it to anything in life, and that's why it's God is making this a worldwide movement.
Yeah.
Well, when you say it works, what do you mean by that, Hila? When you say the system works, what is the outcome? What's the benefit that people get?
Well, I just talked to a group of men in Canada a couple of weeks ago, and I used the 5 steps of this book and my story, talking to God at 3 years old. Well, it started with the decision, which is the first section, which is aligned with awareness. And so my decision, which came through observation, my awareness came through observation and curiosity. I can't find God in the windows. And so I made a decision that was a problem that had to be solved. And you can use the same thing in your life. What do you think? What is in your life that needs to be solved? Well, the next step is purpose. Well, what's the purpose? Why? What's the purpose of solving this? Well, it's always freedom from the problem. And the next step is plan. You get God's infallible plan. Well, my plan was to approach my mother, who mothers know everything, right? So she had to know the answer, and to overcome my fear of rejection, to find the answer, to get that answer. And so I did. I took the steps. Things are not automatic. You have to take steps. Yeah. And then a strategic preparation.
You have to take action. You have to put yourself into the flow. Right.
So my strategic preparation was to approach my mother and get that answer. And so I prepared myself. My desire had to become stronger than the rejection of her, go back and sit down, you know. But then once she told me I could go outside, all of that left. It disappeared. I never thought for one time God wouldn't speak to me. Not one moment.
Yeah.
Because I had my answer. And so God, he'll come through. And that's the infallible plan. The strategic preparation is position. So I position myself to talk to God. And once I did, then preeminence, the kingdom lifestyle is preeminence. It will work because it's worked already. Living life on the other side of resurrection, it's already done. It's up to you to go after it.
Up to you to go after it. I want to take a minute and let you know, thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. We really appreciate it, and tell a friend about it right here on Contact Talk Radio. Our guest today has written a book. Her name is Hila Esther, and the name of her book is The Miraculous Realm of Heaven on Earth, Living Life on the Other Side of Resurrection. That's a cue for Hila to hold up her book.
There you go.
Sorry,
and he does, like a lot of people call me Hila, but it's
Hila. I'm sorry.
I've been called a lot of things, including Gila monster. Starts with this
no.
The Miraculous Realm, and you can see living life on the other side of resurrection.
You know, I read something in this book this morning, and I just kind of want to take a minute and share it with you. And it was just right in the very beginning. And this is what it said. It said, I dedicate this book to all of you who refuse to settle for the dictates of life, thinking that what you are experiencing is all there is to living, stifles your ability to progress. Decide to step out of the rank and file of the crowd, look up and out, expecting to see more, and you will. What you see and act on will change your life. That's a big statement. And you know what, Hila, I got to tell you, in my early days of Alcoholics Anonymous, for the third time, I was really having a hard time believing and understanding, and I was pretty messed up. And then one day I went to a meeting, and I met a man I had never seen before, never even had any, and I was going to a meeting every day, but I'd never seen this guy before. And I sat down at the table with him, and he just looked at me like all empowering. And he said, hi, what's your name? And I said, my name is Todd. And he goes, oh, well, did you know that the other meaning for Todd is fox? And I went, yeah, I kind of did know that because my daughters have this movie called Fox and the Hound, and the fox's name is Todd. I did kind of know that. And we went on and on and on. And I gotta say, at this point in time, I was having a hard time with the concept of God in the way that it was being taught to me, and that I could rely on it, and that I could turn my whole life and my will over to it and rely on that power. I was very distraught over this, and that's probably the reason I was in that meeting. Just to move forward, the meeting finished, this guy disappeared, and I can remember pondering this God thing even more. I got in my truck, and at that point in time, the hall where I went to AA meetings was on Grand. I lived on Grand, and my shop was on Grand. So it was a straight shot up and down one street to get to everywhere I had to go. I'm driving down this street, Hila, and I look over, and there is a fox running alongside of my truck. And he keeps on running right next to me. I stopped at stop signs. He kind of stopped, and I got close to the place where I was living, and the fox took off across the intersection, and he turned right down the alley right before my shop. And I thought, there's my sign. That is proof enough for me that I need to buy into this deal and accept that I am powerless and willing to turn my life over to the care of God as I understood him. And life changed dramatically in that instant. There's my 3-year-old girl story, but that's the way it works, right? I mean, That's the point of your story, is having faith and confidence and asking for proof, asking for help, asking, is this okay? And getting that evidence.
Right. Yes, that was your direction. And the thing is we have a choice, and you had a choice to change your life, follow that or not. But he makes it so non-brainer. This is a non-brainer, you know.
I asked,
He said,
I
set
asked for the proof, and here it was
there
laid
it
right
was.
out in front of me.
You know, in the scripture, he says, I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life. I mean, he tells you, choose life, you know, and he is life. So he leads you down the path, and he's right there for you every step of the way. If we let him, every step is a choice. So you let him lead the way every step. And
So
it works.
yeah, let me ask you, going back to the puppet that you saw in vision, after the strings were cut, was all of his problems solved? I mean, because now he's free,
Mhm.
but I don't think that was all he needed to do, right? There was, as you're
No.
saying, there were decisions to make. So the belief is probably that freedom that helps us realize I don't have to live by these rules of society. I don't have to live by anybody's rules or guidance but God's. But that's not the end of it, right? You've got to
Right.
you've got to take some steps. You've got to take action. You've got to do some things. So what are the other things that we have to do in order to continue this relationship? And what have you
Well,
done?
he gives him a choice, and the thing is that we've all gone to a church or a uplifting meeting, and you feel really good, and you may feel good on the way home, and you walk in, and it's the same four walls, and the next day it's the same four walls, and you go, when is this going to change? When is something going to happen? When will I get that job? When will I find that husband or wife? When will I have a child? You know, when will I move to my new house? And so God told him, he said, you can stay here in the midst of where you are, and I can teach you, and you can overcome it, or you can come with me into unlimited possibilities, and I will show you how to take that, whatever you choose, and change one at a time the things in your life. And
Yeah.
so he shows him a two-sided, like a telescope. He looks through one side and its possibilities. He looks through the other side and it's the earth. And so he's in the spiritual realm looking back to the earth, his life. And God shows him how to take a possibility and change his life.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. And so the trust is there. He chose to go with God into the spiritual realm, which is I teach you how to do that. And that's where it starts. The decision to cut the strings, the decision to go with God, to trust, but also the decision to change those four walls.
Yeah.
Right.
And the awareness, because decision and awareness fall into that same category.
Right.
And that's the first section of your book.
Right.
So there's 4 other sections of your book, Hila, and I don't think we have time to talk about all of them, but so that's the first one. Do you have another favorite that you can entice us a little bit with?
I think my favorite is strategic preparation, because you learn to follow the Holy Spirit. You learn to use the weapons of warfare, which are your words, peace, the sword of the Spirit, your helmet of salvation. The helmet of salvation is how you think, it's your imagination, it's creating your creative ability, because we are one with God, John 17. And so, and also John 14:21. And so, and because Jesus, we're talking about on the other side of resurrection. So it's your positioning. So what a year ago, God told me to buy a chessboard. And I'm thinking, I got to learn chess on top of everything else, but it wasn't about that. It was strategic. God is always steps ahead of where you are, of course.
Yeah.
He's already finished. And when he tells you to do something, as far as he's concerned, it's finished. He's gone on to the next thing. It's up to you to follow his steps to get to that end result. And
Kind of like
so,
Jackie and Todd. Jackie's always 3 steps ahead of me. No.
so when you're playing chess, you have to know your moves ahead of time. It's strategy and it's war games. It's your life is really war games. No matter what you choose to change in your life, you have to know your steps. And where do you find those? The Holy Spirit. See? And you listen, you learn to listen, and you learn to follow. You don't get out in front. And timing is very important, because in the spiritual realm, there's no time and there's no distance. And so you're already there learning to live from your destiny. It's very exciting. And so you have God's infallible plan where you're following the strategy, you know your purpose, and then preeminence. It's already worked in the spiritual realm, and it comes about in the natural realm as you follow the steps.
So it seems like if you were living in that realm, you'd never worry about anything. I mean, every situation or circumstance that would probably bring the normal person down, you're just waiting for the answer to be revealed or the action to be revealed as to what you need to do next. And you share lots of stories in your book about circumstances where that has happened for you. One of them I thought that was really interesting is in one story you tell about trying to sell a house in California that was not a very nice neighborhood. But what happened to allow you to have the house sell the way you saw it would?
Well, I was driving home. This is in Daddy's Little Girl. I was driving home from church in the evening. And I said, okay, God, you want me to sell the house? Because he told me to sell the house. It was a whole step, a whole series of things that ended up to me getting married again, which now Martin and I have been married for 16 years. So, and so I was driving home and I asked the Holy Spirit, I said, so how much do you want me to sell the house for? And out through the windshield was one price, out in front there over the hood, but close to me was a second price. So I knew that I was to list the house for the price that was farthest away, and the price that was close to me, no, it was the opposite. The price that was close to me, I was to list the house for, and the price that was farthest away, after a while, then I would change the price to that one, and that is the one that the house sold for.
So there was a chain of events that had to occur.
Yes.
And you followed suit.
And the realtor said, well, that house would never sell for that. I said, well, it'll sell for that because God told me to price it at that. I mean, you just have to stand your ground. That's the warrior part.
Yeah.
Who comes against God? Nobody,
Right.
Talk to us, Hila, a little bit about purpose, because in your book, you kind of alluded to that, when we're on purpose and following our heart's desire, everything comes easy.
Yes. Well, the thing is, the first one is the decision, and you place yourself there in the spiritual realm where everything is possible. And now you have to know what is your purpose. And your purpose is aligned with freedom. The purpose is always to get free, whether it's a problem, whether it's finding a job or promotion on a job, or someone that's bullying you in school and you need to get free of that, whatever it is. The purpose is always freedom. And so you find out the end result.
Cool.
Well, I didn't hear.
I just said that is very cool.
Yeah. You find out the end result. And so you know where you're going. I used to say thoughts are like boxcars on a train, but that train has to be on a track. And so there's switches on the track. You switch and the train goes in a different direction, but you lay that track with your purpose because you're headed toward your destiny, that end result, and so your thoughts align with that. Well, you can't align your thoughts to go somewhere if you don't know where you're going.
Right.
Or if you don't know the purpose of your life or what you're here to do, how can you make decisions to get there? And so you make your decisions by following the Holy Spirit, and that's where God's infallible plan comes from. The plan comes from the blueprint. that you follow because you have purpose.
And it's really hard for spirit, God, whatever it is, to provide you the opportunities if he's not quite sure. Obviously he knows, but if your direction isn't quite steadfast enough for him to be able to put those opportunities in front of you.
Right. That you have to agree. He's not going to make you do something. You agree, and that comes from your desire. He gives you the desires of your heart. So your desire becomes stronger than the obstacles. Then the strategic preparation gets you across the obstacles. And
what do you say to people, Hila? What do you say to people when people come and say, because I hear this a lot, I don't know what my purpose is.
Ask.
Ask. Very good.
See, the thing is people are so worried about getting their purpose, they don't want to get quiet. You have to get quiet. And then there's people that play music. Well, we came up in music. My mother played 5 instruments and sang, and so we all played instruments and sang, except for my oldest brother and my dad, but they couldn't sing. But anyway, and so for me to play music while I'm meditating is a distraction, because the first thing I would think is I wouldn't sing that line like that, or I would arrange this song differently. And so I meditate in the quiet. And so my focus is I ask the question and I listen.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit even told me what to ask. He said, say this: I welcome you, Holy Spirit, to give me revelation, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the kingdom of God. Well, you can say of blank and fill in the blank. And then you listen.
Do you also do some journaling so that you can look back at some of those revelations you've had and inspirations you've had and validate that?
Yes, you get I like a college ruled notebook, and you get them in school starts, you can get them for $1 something,
Yeah.
But I go in there and I go in the closet because it's a walk-in closet because it's quiet, and I like to sit in dim light, and I date it, and I put the date on, and I say Holy Spirit, and then I ask the question, and then whatever I hear, I write. Sometimes I say, well, what do you want me to do? What's next? Or whatever you want to ask. And sometimes he won't even answer that question. He'll just start talking to you about what he wants to talk to you about. And then maybe a couple of days he'll answer your question. So, but you write it down, then you can go back and look at the date and you can track your life and your results.
Cool.
That's very
good. Yeah. So now God is invisible. You haven't seen him. You've heard him. Have you seen other persons, perhaps resurrected persons? Have you seen anyone like that?
I saw my sister. My sister watched over me until I was 26, when I officially received salvation. To me, I had it all along, but I mean, I'm talking to God. And so, but at 26, you know how the church does you.
Right.
So anyway, I got away from the Methodist Church and went to Church of God in Christ, and it was a whole craziness difference. It's another story. But anyway, then my sister, I didn't see her anymore in the clouds watching me. Now my daughters have seen angels, all kinds of things. They see in the spiritual realm, there's a lot going on. It's all real.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful that you've taught your children that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you know what, Hila, it's amazing to me. But what do you say to skeptics? Are there people that you just can't communicate with because they're just not going to even wonder if it's possible?
Well, the thing is when you talk to people, you're listening at the same time. It's like you live in two realms. You live here in the natural realm, but you're living from the spiritual realm. And so you listen, and a lot of times I can hear what people are going to say, or I can feel them before I even say anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm already prepared for their attitude or what they say. And then I listen to see what the Holy Spirit wants to say. And I just say that. You have to be thick-skinned because a lot of people will just turn you off, and it's their choice. But
Yeah.
you put it out there, and you don't like. I'm not pushy. I enjoy what I do.
Well,
And
you're planting a seed, though, right, Hila? I
yeah,
mean, it's whether or not they accept it then or accept it later, you're helping to sow the seed.
right, right. And they'll remember it. The Holy Spirit will come
Oh,
back and say, "Remember when Hyla said da 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 da."
remember that?
So that's his
Remember that
job.
brick I threw at you? Well,
No.
here comes a piece of concrete.
Right.
And
So
that's
what
how
is
it works.
yeah. Well, what is your purpose, Hyla? As you help others to ask that question, what is my purpose, and help them to figure that out, plan and strategically, work on that. What is your purpose?
I feel like this book is my life's purpose. I feel like everything that I've gone through in my life up until this time is to get this book worldwide, to let people know that God created mankind. He didn't just create people in a certain country or that believe a certain way. God is for people. This is for people. It's not for organizations or certain denomination. God is for people, and he loves everyone.
Yeah.
And so if you want to live a victorious, successful life, get your desires, the desires of your heart, if you want to receive them, you can do that. Because I told them in the master class, I said, God is in everyone. And they said, how do you know God is in everyone? I said, well, Genesis 2:7 says God breathed the breath of life into man. I said, stop breathing. You'll notice that you're not
You'll
here
know.
anymore. So
There's your sign.
God is everywhere, so he has to be in you, right? So that's his point of entry. Now, the heart, he knows how to reach each person's heart. And if you're listening, he'll tell you how to reach them through their heart, because that's the most powerful thing in their body, the electromagnetic, of their heart and emotion. So that's how you create.
Oh my
So my
goodness,
life's
ladies, we've been gifted with an extra 5 minutes today. Can you believe that?
We have been.
We have been gifted with an extra 5 minutes. So, Hila, we have about 8 minutes left. Is
you
there
did it
anything?
again.
Yeah, you did it again. That's all right. It's Todd.
Okay.
We have about 8 minutes left. Is there anything we're missing? And I just had another little bird talk to me. My girlfriend, Coach Debbie, would love to have you on her show, and it's called Story You Talk Radio, and it is a live show in the Seattle area. So she's going to be getting a hold of you. Am I okay to give her your information?
Yes, of course. Love to.
Okay. So back to the original question. We have about 8 minutes left. Is there anything we're missing? Anything else that you want to bring into the light, or is something moved
Well,
through you?
the main thing also is this is not for just the individual person.
Yeah.
Since there's no time and distance in the spirit, you can pray for someone anywhere on the other side of the earth. You can be at home praying for someone in the hospital. And the thing is since you've been given all things, 2 Peter 1:1-3, it really goes 1-11. God has given us all things. You don't have to ask for anything. God would always tell me, he said, why are you trying to get something you already have? I said, oh no, why would you tell me? And so you receive. You say what you desire, and then you receive it and you live from it. You live as though you already have it. That's Romans 4:17.
Yeah.
As though you already have it. And that brings it to you. And it's like a kid at Christmas. They ask you for a bicycle, and you're doing all you can to get that bicycle there. You think you're not going to have a bicycle? He knows when he opens that door, she opens the door. Our mother used to close the doors, and then mom and daddy would open the doors in the tree, and we'd run. And that bicycle is there. And so, do you think if God knows your heart, he's not going to get that to you? As soon as it comes out of your mouth, you have it. But it's a promise that you pull in because you go through the steps of belief and faith, you see. knowing you already have it.
And acting as if, I think, is
And it's the
acting.
same for everyone else. When
Yeah.
you pray for someone else, it's not just for you, and that's why it's worldwide.
Hmm. So how do people find out about your program? How do they become involved in it? Where do they find out more about you and your podcast and all that good stuff? Where can they go?
Well, at the time that we were talking, I was doing a podcast, but I decided to put all my effort into this book. So,
Mm.
reflections, that's the other one. That's my ministry. freedomnetworknow.com is my website.
Okay.
And on there are all kinds of messages and things. You just click on the podcast, they're there. It's a gold mine. And my book is also there under the shop. Anything that how to contact me is my contact page is there. So Freedom.
Tell us about your
Network
program.
Now.
So you've got a 5 steps to miracle system coming up. What can a person expect to get from that?
These 5 steps that we went through, it tells you the problems, the solutions, the transformational outcome that you can expect, the value. Like I was telling a woman the other day, just one example. We've all had people with little children, they get an ear infection and you're up all night. The child is in pain. You're in pain because they're in pain. Nobody's getting sleep.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning you have to miss work, try to get right in at 8 or 8:30 when the doctor's office opens to get an appointment, take the child, and they go, oh yeah, it's an earache. Let me give you this prescription. Then you have to go and get it filled, the whole thing, and they take it for 10 days, send it to the babysitter, the whole thing. Well, what if you could just release the power of God into that child's ear and heal that ear? They go to sleep, you go to sleep, you don't miss work, there's no medicine, and everything is fine. Would that be value to you? Of course.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Faith and trust. Well, Hila, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Will you come back?
Of course, yes. I've
I would
enjoyed
just
it.
love to have you back. I think there's a lot more. Is there another book in you?
Yeah, no. I asked God, I said, do I have to do this again? I don't know. If he gives me one, I'll do it. But I can't say so right now.
You just never know, do you?
You never
might
know.
hear that voice one day. Well, did you have fun? Did you have a blast on Life Mastery Radio?
I had a great time. Yes.
Thank you. I told you you would. Jackie and I always have. This is the time of the week that just gets to be fun. We get to rub elbows with some really cool people with some really great thoughts and ideas for our listeners to use on their very own life mastery journey. Jackie, any takeaways today?
Well, Hila is such an amazing person.
I agree.
She's got these wonderful skills that she's teaching all of us to have. And I want to just thank you, Hila, for, in your story, in your book, there's lots of stories about ways that you have seen others in danger or situations that someone was going to be hurt or harmed, and you've prayed for those people, and they've been helped because of your prayers. So the faith that you have is not just for you, but I just wanted to say thank you in case you've ever prayed for me. I want to say thank you for doing that, because
that's like saying pray for me.
No, it's an amazing gift, and I'm so happy that you are teaching others how to find this gift. We all have it, right? We've just somehow forgotten it. And so that you're helping people to recall this gift that they have, I think is really fabulous. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Hila, for showing up as you today with that wonderful smile, the great energy that you project. Jackie and I both appreciate it. We made for some really great contact. Listeners, I know that you had a blast too, and I would like you to tell your friends about Life Mastery Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use and for your friends to use on their very own life mastery journey. Jackie, cool show, not cool show?
Of course it was a cool show.
Cool show.
It was a
It's a
heavenly
very-
show.
It's a heavenly show. And we have really cool guests like Hila. Lastly, I would like for you to make it a really great day, because it's all about choice. And you can choose to check out Hila. The links are on our website, and you can choose to check out my book, Jackie's book, and then you can choose to make it a great day. That's about all we have time for today.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life. For more information on Todd and his guests, visit his website at www.lifemasteryradio.net. That's www.lifemasteryradio.net.